I'm not going to speak quickly racing through this information for razzmatazz and effect, because I think that this is just too important, and it warrants the time to really ponder over it, to stop for a moment and think about where you are in your life right now. What's going on? What are you doing? And what is important to you? And most importantly, what is it that you actually want out of your life? We all aspire to do, to be, and have great things, yet most of us simply aren't creating the results we want. We complain that we don't have enough money, romance, success, or joy in our lives. We point fingers and blame outside problems that happen to us, making life even more difficult. But what we need to understand and keep at the forefront of our minds is that happiness, love, and most importantly, self-love exists in all of us, and it is simply up to us to pull it out of ourselves. Regardless of our personal circumstances, economic climates, and access to resources, the fact is that we each have more control over our lives than we think. We all have the ability to create the life we want. We just need to learn how to do it. So I'm sometimes asked, what's your secret? My answer is simply being happy as often as I can. And then they usually say, well, you can't be happy all the time. And I say, well, why not? People wait all morning for lunchtime, all week for the weekend, and all year for their vacation. They spend their entire lifetime waiting for someone or something to make them happy. Why not just take the shortcut and simply be happy now? My goal is to live a life that I don't need a vacation from. That's not to say we cannot go on adventures, but then we're taking our already happy life on a trip of new discoveries, as opposed to a deep need to vacate our day-to-day lives for some kind of break that's supposed to make things better, only to come back to the same old grind in 2 weeks. I think the big problem is that people do not understand what happiness really is. They think it's all bunnies and roses, a place where they don't have any problems, where everything works out perfectly for them. But for me, happiness is much simpler than trying to create this fairy tale existence. Happiness is the absence, or at least reduction in resistance to what is in front of us. When you can look at any situation and respond to it consciously from your heart, rather than reacting to it habitually from the mind and ego, you're on your way to true happiness, a happiness that comes from the true love of self, as you make your heart's wisdom your priority. And that is the secret to living a life you don't need a vacation from. So again, happiness is simply the absence of, or at least the lessening of, resistance to whatever is in front of us. So what does that mean exactly? It means that you accept whatever circumstances, event, or occurrence is happening for you in any given moment. And I'll say that last part again. Whatever is happening for you in any given moment, not to you. It is where you no longer look for people and things to blame for what is happening to you. Instead, you understand that whatever it is, whatever may be occurring, is only happening for you, for your growth. You understand that it has already been put in place, and it's on the game board, so to speak, that there is nothing to be done except to accept what's in front of you and to deal with it. Now, accepting it doesn't mean you have to like it, or that you lay there and take it. No, not at all. You may hate the moment. You may even get angry or upset in that moment. Sometimes it's necessary that you set new boundaries, but when all that is said and done, the trick is that you leave it all behind. You return to your own state of balance. You learn from it, release what is needed to be released, and simply move on, returning to your true self with a loving and happy state of mind. Now this is our challenge. The challenge is to be truly happy, not to live in a world where everything is roses and rainbows, but to live in a body where we can return to our own private roses and rainbows anytime we wish, regardless of what is happening in the world around us. This is how we love ourselves. It is true happiness. And the good news is that it's also a choice we make every moment of every day. We choose how we react to every situation that presents itself to us. Unfortunately, Most of our choices are unconscious and automatic, as we react to the stimuli around us with the same old habitual reactions, never giving them a second thought, turning to others to lay blame, or sometimes even worse, blaming ourselves for what other people's habitual reactions have done to us. Sometimes we say, I feel bad because they did or they said X, Y, or Z, not realizing that what they said or what they did is only their old habitual knee-jerk reaction to the stimulus that was in front of them. In this instance, it just happened to be you. And it's really nothing to do with you at all. When you have a grumpy day, you simply are grumpy. No matter who's in front of you or what's done, you're simply grumpy, right? Well, it's the same thing. So how do we get to this peaceful state of mind? I believe the first step is to realize that it is in fact a natural state of being, that every sentient being strives to feel better. We may give this inner feeling various different names. We may call it joy, inner peace, satisfaction, contentment, fulfillment, bliss, well-being, happiness, or indeed self-love. However we choose to describe this inner feeling, we all seek it. It is a search for ease, for relief, a relief from suffering and pain. It is a bubbling up inside of goodness, of knowing that all is well in the world. It is safety and it is fun, all wrapped up in a tiny ball that lives inside our hearts, waiting for us to acknowledge it and then to let it out. This wondrous state of being is not just an emotion we feel, but a skill that we can cultivate. Over time in my practice, I have come to understand what the happiest people among us all have in common. And it's a similar mindset. I've discovered that what gives them this perspective is a set of skills that they consistently, even if sometimes subconsciously, practice. Over the 25 years plus that I have been in practice, as a transformational life coach, a healer, and a karate sensei, I've had the privilege of working with and helping many people of varying ages and from all different walks of life. I've seen people transform before my very eyes. What I have come to realize is that finding themselves, their happiness, and self-love is easier than we think. We don't have to spend months or years in therapy digging up the past to try to find our happiness now. In fact, the only way to be happy now is to be happy now, in this present moment. By simply understanding this, it makes this process so much easier. And this is what our work and the 7 Simple Shifts is all about. It's a shift in perspective. By finding simple ways to shift our perspective, to look at life a little differently moment by moment, we're able to change how we feel at any given time. These simple shifts change how we feel in that moment, and eventually, over time, our entire outlook on life. These 7 simple shifts of attitude make the world of difference to almost everybody who works with them. They encompass most, if not all, of what is required to find our happiness, and they allow us to move step by step from wherever we are at present to a state of continued self-love and happiness. The 7 simple shifts are simple attitude adjustments that help us see life from a different vantage point. They assist us in lightening our load, or becoming enlightened. An enlightened mind is a mind no longer weighed down by attachments. It's a mind that is free to be as it wishes without concern of what others think. It is a mind ready and willing to take on the world and all that it throws at it. It is a mind that is not so serious about things. It takes life a little more lightly. Could this be why enlightened people often laugh and smile more? We've all heard the saying, looking for love in all the wrong places, but do you realize that most of us have spent a large portion of our lives doing just that? The majority of people will consider themselves happy, and yet they're always searching for something to make them happier. They believe happiness is reliant upon the acquisition of something new or something different. They're constantly chasing, but never attaining. Oftentimes they search for all their lives. So do you recognize any of these places? Do any of these sound familiar? People search in their next purchase. For many people, It has been ingrained into their thinking the best way to attain happiness is to find it in their next purchase, the next big shiny object. As a result, joy is sought in bigger houses, nicer cars, cooler technology, or more fashionable clothing. Most possessions never satisfy. In fact, the joy that they bring is entirely fleeting, and those who search for happiness in them are left to chase the next purchase, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Some look in the next paycheck. Money is not the secret to happiness. It never has been and it never will. And the sooner we realize this truth, the sooner we can discover the freedom that accompanies no longer requiring riches to be happy. So I'm certainly not saying that there's anything wrong with liking or enjoying nice things, but attaching your happiness, your self-worth to those things or money itself is a recipe for disaster. In the next relationship, as human beings, we were designed for relationships, and there's a great joy to be found in them. But relationships, by their very nature, require humility and selflessness, and believing there is another person out there that is your other half, that will complete you, that will or can bring complete happiness into your life, is to embark on a journey with no end, and often with disastrous outcomes. Our relationships become far stronger and more fulfilling when we stop searching for someone to meet our needs and start using our relationships to be with someone who we can stand side by side with, be strong and complete without needing anything from each other. Some people look for it in the next competition. I've come to understand the mindset of competition in our world is based on a false premise. It assumes that there is a finite size pie and that one person's success in life equals one less opportunity in the pool of successes. And so one less opportunity for the next person. But this thinking is incorrect because in an infinite universe, the pie itself must be infinite. It just keeps growing. And those who seek happiness by ruthlessly beating out another person will always find there is someone else out there to be beaten. It never ends. Some people look for the happiness in their job. It is important to pursue work that you love. Unfortunately, I see too many people nowadays who are seeking the perfect job. Again, those who are continually experiencing disdain in their present career because they think the next one will be perfect. They're chasing happiness in the wrong places. While yes, there may be a time to change your job, to look for different employment, there may also be a time for change in your approach to your work. And people look for love in the next great escape. People who have not yet found themselves in true happiness often seek an escape. They believe a distraction from their present circumstances to be a shortcut to happiness. They often turn to hours in front of the television, long evenings in the pub, bar, or club, or even the great weekend getaways, all to try to numb the pain. But the entertainment always ends. The morning always comes, and the vacations always conclude. Meanwhile, the present circumstances haven't changed. In fact, often they've only become more complicated. People who have found self-love recognize and accept their circumstances and do not require escape from them. Instead, they choose to practice peace and love from inside of them. We can find our Zen in any situation. Happiness is not found in solutions, but in the acceptance of the unresolved. In accepting things just the way they are, happy people know that this new way of living is a choice. They know it is not a reaction to present circumstances, and that joy is an available decision despite any situations that may present. They have left behind the thinking that waits for everything to be perfect before joy and fulfillment in life is experienced. Self-love can be discovered at any point in our lives, regardless of our circumstances. But finding it does not mean we become complacent in the face of things that can be changed. It doesn't mean we stop striving or growing or maturing. We do not use happiness or contentment as an excuse for mediocrity. Instead, we walk forward in confidence and discipline. We become the best possible versions of ourselves, not just for our own well-being, but for the well-being of our loved ones and all those around us. Your happiness is based solely on your decision to be happy. And this may be one of the most important life lessons any of us could ever learn. So, are you ready to make this shift in perspective? Are you ready for something new? Are you ready to discover self-love? Find out more about the 7 simple shifts and how they can help you. Click below for a free video.